All right, so thank you everybody for joining us this morning. Back by popular demand, we have the amazing Roxanne Webster. You guys asked if we could get her back again, and she was kind enough to come back and spend the morning with us. So we're really excited to talk to Roxanne and hear what other nuggets of wisdom she has to share with us this week. And of course, I've asked Joanne to run the call this morning because she is Joanne's coach and they know each other really well. So whenever you're ready, Joanne, take it away.
Okay, well, thanks, Kieran. Thanks, Roxanne, for agreeing to bless us with your presence. And thank you for our extra. I know that you're also, my understanding is, do a shout out to Stephanie in B-Town that you're going to be teaching a listings class for them coming up in a week or so.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So I'm excited about that, and thanks Stephanie for jumping right on that. That's super good for Bradenton. She might even ask Sarasota to join. I'm not sure. We'll see.
Woohoo!
She already did.
Yeah, and a personal thank you for being on a call, guys. Mike Polachek and I were on a Friday call with Roxanne about our database and love generation and also standards. So we put everything in a really great box for standards with a bow on top of it, sending lists out to the agents on the team to get super comfortable with making these calls, and then having the standards of how many calls to be made. So do you want to speak a little bit to that, Roxanne? Because we did talk about, by the way, the consequence for not doing it is you're not on the team. That's what their consequence they came up with. And we had great results. Well, we had great calls made. We didn't have any appointments, but we did have a real uptick, and we made it super easy for them. So one of the things I think we need to do is make it super easy for ourselves.
That's right.
Right, to make the calls.
That's right. I've got a few questions for you guys to ask yourself when we're thinking about standards, because one of the honors of being a coach is that I get to speak with people all over the country. I get to speak with people who've been stuck in their homes for 2 weeks, and people who've been stuck in their homes for 4 weeks, and people who can still leave their homes. And I'm seeing these kind of waves of reaction. And the wave of reaction that I've been seeing lately is people kind of getting settled in and overall seeing a drop in their energy. And that drop in their energy yields a drop in their production, right? Because the normal things that we measure our production with, you know, that feedback of, oh, okay, I got a listing appointment. It goes on the market, it goes under contract. Those measures are harder right now, right? So let's start out by asking ourselves a handful of questions here. What will your legacy be? And these are journal questions for you to be thinking about. What do you want to be known for? That's the second question. Who do you want to be? Third question. What does your business look like on the other side? And then what do you want to do today? I was astounded when I first started in real estate after having been run a business for somebody else. I had a supervisor who never came to see me. For all intents and purposes, I was running a business, my own business, it felt like. So I was very surprised when I got a real estate license that if my first appointment wasn't until 11 o'clock in the morning, nobody knew it if I was still in bed at 10. Nobody knew it, right? And then a lot of what we have all, the ones who are in production, most of us go into an office, right? So when we are stuck at home, we're back in that place again where there is a lack of accountability of even just having other people within the office see you, right? So we should all be looking at a standard, just one. Pick one thing where you're gonna take the stand, right? Where you that's That's the hill that is not going to be taken from you, right? And what we were talking about with Joanne's team is conversations. That's the stand her team is taking, that we're going to have 10 conversations a day. That's it, right? If you just take one stand on standards and you hold yourself to it, and nothing else that you can be doing is going to come before that standard, this is going to help you with this, with what your business looks like coming out of here, coming out on the other side, right? And you'll find, lo and behold, if you're having 10 conversations, that you will find people who absolutely need to sell a house right now or need to buy a house right now, and everything will roll from that, because we are all creative entrepreneurs, right? And once we've got somebody who has a need for us to solve, we will figure out how to solve it. We will figure out what the technology is to do remote showings. We'll figure out what the technology is to do, to use all the technology that we have at our disposal now in a way that's substantive and clears the noise and gives somebody a solution, right? So what is your standard? What is the one hill that you're gonna take here and not let anybody take away from you? Yeah, that's your choice. Is it email? Is it social media? Are you going to decide that your standard is to reach out to have substantive interaction with 20 people a day on social media? Is it texting? Is it YouTube? There's no one correct way to do this. But the only wrong way to do this is to not to do anything at all. That's the only wrong answer here. And it all comes down to contact. How do you have substantive contact with people right now? And it's not like we couldn't all use more substantive people contact, right? When we're sitting here looking at the wall and we're getting up close and personal with our families in a way that most of us haven't in a long time, right? So there's opportunity here for you to pick that hill and take it. That's what I have to say on standards. What's your hill? And if you're not willing to take that hill, really, you should be looking at a different business. I said it, right? If you're not willing to get into your database right now, this is not the right business for you, right? And it's easy. We are in a position to be leaders in our community right now, right? The conversation I'm having with people right now is about forbearance agreements, because the forbearance agreements that we're seeing coming, that we're seeing the banks offer are falling into 3 categories. The first category is that you just don't pay for a few months, and then at the end, they tack those few payments on the end of the term of your loan, fine. The second category we're seeing are a repayment period over, a year to 18 months. They spread out those payments, fine. People's payments go up a little bit, that's okay. The third that we're seeing, which is 75% of these agreements, folks, is that entire amount is going to be due at the end of that 3 or 4 month period. So somebody who right now can't pay their mortgage and is seeking a mortgage forbearance is going to be required, as soon as the lights turn back on, to cough up an additional $12,000 to $15,000, right? Isn't that something that you think your database would want to know about right now when they're fielding these and perhaps not reading the small print because they're scared, right? So you have this potential to be a leader in your community, to give people substantive information, to let people know that that if they're going to be looking at doing a forbearance agreement, that they need to talk to somebody. They need to talk to a realtor, they need to talk to a lender, and they probably need to talk to a financial planner. Because here's the other thing that's coming. We get to 3 months down the road and somebody's presented with a $15,000 bill. They're likely to go dig into their retirement funds. So let's say you've got $15,000 that you're going to pull out of your 401k, and you're going to use that to repay a forbearance. If you're 40 years old, a well-invested investment fund, retirement fund, should double every 7 years. So that $15,000 that you pulled out of your 401k to pay off that forbearance would have become $480,000 by the time you retire. Do we think that's a conversation to have with database? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 10 conversations a day. That's the hill, or 10 contacts. All right, is that what you wanted? Is that it?
We're done. No. So another thing that I know some of us are saying, well, we've gone through our database. Our database wasn't that huge, and one of the things that we've added to our repertoire is on top of the database, you need to call for sale by owners and expireds as well, and
Absolutely.
not listed for sale by owners, but some of the older ones. And I know that people are going to say, oh my gosh, 14 Keller Williams agents called me today. That usually happens during Bold. And I say, well, there was 100 in the room, so shame on them. But,
that's right.
Right? So there are also other people that we can call, and there's always a reason to call. Guys, 53 properties sold, closed yesterday in our 2 counties, residential properties. 53 in one day. And 48 properties were listed, and 58 went pending. So, you know, we're still seeing that our inventory, right? So there's a message, right? Rox, there's something else to call, to have a conversation about. Now,
absolutely.
Roxanne told me last week, you could bark at 21 people, literally, right?
That's
and
right.
Somebody's, you're gonna have a conversation with somebody.
That's right. Call up and bark. You'll be fine, right? That's something, back before the Bold days was this, I'm going to date myself, Floyd Wickman, who was the first, right? And he used to say that you can call, if you call and bark at enough people, somebody's going to invite you over, when he talked about phone work. But there's huge opportunities in both expireds and FSBOs right now. First of all, it's not 100 people calling them at the moment. Do you know how many of your colleagues, of your fellow realtors right now have gone to ground? They think this is the opportunity to clean the basement or paint the house or whatever it is that they're doing, right? There are, especially for sale by owners, I completely get it. If somebody has been in the market of 60 and 90 days ago attempting to sell their house on their own, why wouldn't you try that first? Save 20, 30 grand in commissions. I get it, right? However, there has not been a moment like this since 2008 where people needed the skill of a realtor the way they do right now. Those of you who are still getting transactions to the closing tables right now, is it a little bit more work than it was 3 months ago? Right? Are you having to engage in a little bit more creative problem solving? Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Are we seeing loan programs that are shifting under the feet of our buyers? Absolutely. And are all these problems that may have a solution to them if you've got a skillful realtor on one side, a skillful realtor on the other side, and a buyer that wants to buy and a seller that wants to sell? If you've got those elements, real estate is still being done, right? So we've got such a discussion to have with for sale by owners and find out, did they really need to sell right now, or were they testing the waters? If they really need to sell right now and they were doing what 70% of FSBOs do, try it on their own for a few weeks, and if they don't get lucky, hire a realtor. Those are folks who still may be highly motivated. And I'd say probably, you know, who knows what, 25, 30% of them were really motivated to start with, but you can go find those people. And if you are delicate in your approach, they will be happy to hear from you, especially with this substantive information. I really saw this boldly during 2008 in Colorado. You know, we all got kids at home. C is for cookie. That's good enough for you. All right. I'm going to do what I found was that people who were having these questions about mortgages, questions about 401ks, you can't just Google what happens if and get a substantive answer, right? It's like trying to Google a symptom that you have. Oh, I've got a pain in my side. You Google that. What does pain in my side mean? And you're going to come up with anything from gas to colon cancer, right?
Right.
That's what people are finding on the internet when they attempt to seek information that's generalized and not specific to them. So this comes back to leadership in our communities. If you don't have enough people in your database, go talking to for sale by owners. Go talking to old expireds. Find out if somebody was overpriced 6 months ago, right? They may not have been highly motivated. They may be now.
And one thing about expireds that I'm seeing from some of the agents that do a really good job with, like Patrick Rogley in our office, for example, I think he's taken close to 40 listings in the first quarter just off expireds. He said that right now, the phone calls are easier because people are sitting at home, they're answering the phone, and they're willing to talk more than they maybe were when their lives were busy and chaotic, 2 months ago.
Yep.
So it's a great opportunity to dip your toe into that water if you haven't, really thrown yourself on expireds before. When you're talking about financial advisors or when you're talking about educating your clients with quality information, that's a great opportunity for you to do things like we've seen other agents do, like do a Zoom call with a financial advisor and invite your sphere to attend and ask questions and, connect people, right? That's what we do as realtors in our communities, is we connect people to the other people that they need in addition to selling houses. So I love those approaches.
Yep. And that really puts us in the position of being the local economist. As I've been talking to people about these conversations around the country, and some folks go, well, isn't it a little personal to ask somebody if they've lost their job? Well, yeah, of course it's a little personal. And I'm not asking them that way. My opening line is always, so how's it going working from home? I'm assuming that, and then I let them tell me otherwise. That's a unobtrusive way to give them permission to surrender that information or not. So I'm not putting them on the spot, right? But those conversations, we have these short-term, intimate financial relationships with people. And whether or not you think of yourself this way, they think of you as a financial advisor. They do. You've given them advice on their most significant asset that most people will have unless you're a Rockefeller, right? So they already view you as that financial advisor. What you need to do now is step up into that role.
Awesome. So are you seeing any pockets of areas where business is being done differently? Are we all kind of approaching it the same way? Do you see some great successes versus some people that have gone to ground? Probably not in your group because nobody would go to ground with you, but are you seeing like some people that are just knocking out of the park doing what you're talking about that we could maybe follow on Facebook and friends?
I would, for any of you who can get on, go to the Command Your Conversion Facebook group. Awesome stuff on there. And it is focused on technology and command, right? This event has forced any of us who were not advancing towards the technology right into it full force, right? God, you remember our first week of this? How on earth do you use Zoom? Which link do I do? I had it again this morning, right? So we're getting pushed into the technology. Command Your Conversion is a great one. The questions that I'm seeing, the people who are really rock starring this are asking themselves, how do we do this business without getting into a home? Because you guys aren't there yet, right? You're still an essential business.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. We were until just watched my mouth. My husband says I have the voice of an angel in the mouth of a sailor, so I just hit the edit button in time. There's some unscrupulous agents. We had one in Colorado last week that wanted to show a property that was tenant occupied. The tenant was showing COVID symptoms, and the realtor required them to leave so that the house could be shown. And the attorney general filed a cease and desist. And then now we're not allowed to show properties unless there's a contract on that property, right? So depending upon what state, and I suspect that your state is not likely to go to that because you've got so many critical services. But there again, we need to be asking ourselves intelligently, what can we be doing to be acting responsibly? And I think we can all agree that if you can weed out 8 out of 10 buyers who wouldn't have liked that backyard before they ever get into that house, we are being responsible, right? And the sellers being responsible. So I think that the people who are taking, who are using the technology and getting ahead of that curve, you may not get to a point where you can't do showings in your market. Florida may not get there, right? But it may. So what can you be doing right now to be preparing for that? What systems can you have in place? Play with doing a walking showing in your own house, right? Just start playing with the technology so that you can have a system and a plan in place if your market becomes more restrictive. I'd say that is the hallmark, is the people who are thinking ahead and saying, what if this goes in this direction, and having a plan to prepare for it.
Yeah, we were very blessed to have Donnie Brookman from our region, and we went over all of the virtual showings and things like that and how we can put them into the MLS and do our tours. So that was amazing. And I know that if the WWE has been declared an essential service, Lauren, then if the WWE, you can do live events. I don't know if they're going to shut us down, but anyway, yeah. So is
right.
Look, see there, because it's true that just happened today. So thank you for that. I think we should open it up to questions, Kieran.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got about 4 minutes left, guys. So jump in if you do have any questions. I know a lot of you had wanted Roxanne to come back, so I'm sure you guys have some questions for her. This is your time.
Just unmute yourself and ask a question.
Unmute your heart.
Unmute your heart.
Hey, Roxanne.
Yes.
Tim Corcoran, how are you?
Hi, Tim. I'm well. Yourself?
Thanks for coming back. So I've been actually posting a lot of COVID information through Facebook and then sending it out through Messenger and touching base with people like that. And I've actually gotten a lot of people responding to that.
Oh,
so
yeah.
That's been what I've been doing, and call my database. And I called FSBOs the other day. I got 4 or 5 hang-ups, but I also had some conversations. So that's I think it's a normal day when it comes to that stuff. So appreciate all the stuff you gave us here, and it's definitely going to help. Excellent.
I think that if you guys are going to take away one thing from today, what hill are you taking? Because this is passing. It will pass, whether it's 4 weeks or 8 weeks or 12 weeks. Doesn't really matter. What have you done in that 12 weeks goes by fast. I know time feels like it's crawling right now, but 8 weeks, 4 weeks, it goes really fast. And it would be so easy for you to just say, okay, I'll make some calls tomorrow. I'll make some contacts tomorrow. And then you're left in the dust when the lights come back on. So what hill are you taking? What hill are you taking today?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think now more than ever, it's important that we have, like you said, right at the beginning.
My wife always tells me,
we have standards.
Yeah,
we have standards in our business because, in a good market, you can fall over a deal even if you're not working that hard. Right now, if you're not putting in the activities, there won't be business for you to service. So you have to have standards in your business right now.
That's right.
And always keeping in the back of your head that business is being done.
That's right.
I know Mike today talked to the team and said, it's nice to make care calls, and that's, yes, love generation, and we can provide value. But like Rox said, there are people there that need to sell their home or they need to buy a home. So let's, in the salesy side of me, please don't forget to ask for the business if it's there.
That's right. And, you know, when you're talking to your folks, I've been saying, I want to have this conversation with anyone you know. Who should I be talking to? Because if it's substantive for your database, it's substantive. And the purpose, going back to last week, if we remember, the purpose of this is getting data points. Is somebody cash poor and house rich? And are they employed or are they unemployed? Because these people are potential listings. These are people, you're giving them great information, but you're giving them great information to build the credibility of the relationship. So when we do have a moment where they need to buy or sell because of the circumstances, you're the person they speak to and they're not ashamed to do so because you're already engaged in that conversation.
So Rox, Mike's just got a point here. For some of us who want to be or less hesitant to have that personal conversation, you could start with a third party, right?
That's right.
Who do you know that I should be talking to share information about the 3 types of forbearance?
That's right. Boy, I'm really worried about people. Do you know of anybody who's struggling with the, you know, who needs to do a forbearance? Because there's a brief conversation I need to have with them about the 3 kinds of forbearance. Most people don't know, blah, blah, blah. And you're talking through them, but getting the information to them. That's a great point.
Okay. So does that help, guys? For some of you, I mean, the third party is an easier call to make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Well, hey, look at that. We finished right on time. Hey, thank you so much, Roxanne, for joining us again this week. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
I know you.
Take a hill. Take a hill.
I know you're a couple hours behind us, so thanks for getting up even earlier to join us this morning.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Go take a hill, gang.
All right. Everyone have a great day. Thanks for being on the call.
Thank you.